Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would try a little experiment, something new. I've been thinking about narcissism and gaslighting and trying to understand it and how people think, and having lived through it myself, it's something that I feel a lot of people don't really understand that it's happening to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this little video from a lady called, she's a psychologist, and she's called Barbara Heffernan, and she has some footage here about a covert narcissist, and we're just going to play the video, and I'm just going to pull some cards and we're going to have some fun with it. So here goes. I hope you can hear this okay. So here goes.
So number one, the covert narcissist can actually appear both fragile and charming. So they might present as very, very sweet, insecure. They might present as insecure rather than super secure. And your initial impression, if this isn't a family member, right, but you meet them, your initial impression will be, oh, what a nice person, right? They're so nice. And it takes a little bit of time to see what's underneath. And one way you can begin to pick up on what's underneath is that they might give you compliments that are a little confusing, like kind of a backhanded compliment. It could be something like, oh, you look great today. The last time I saw you, I was really worried about you. Because like, what's that going to make you think? That's going to make you think, oh dear, what did I look like the last time she saw me? Like, oh my goodness, right? So they are comments that are meant to kind of undermine your self-esteem while it seems like the person's being nice. So those backhanded statements, backhanded compliments are a big red flag. And these are like obviously very confusing to you. You might walk away thinking, I know she meant to be nice, but that really didn't feel very good. Other people will probably see it as like, oh, no, you're thinking too much about it. That was a compliment. So that has you questioning yourself and eventually undermines your self-esteem. Now, going with this kind of sort of fragile but charming presentation is the fact that the covert narcissist will very often be self-deprecating, but usually, there's sort of like this underlying message that contradicts the self-deprecation. And there's an element of the self-deprecation where they clearly want you to counter it and compliment them. Here's an example for you. You go to somebody's house and it is spotless. In fact, you walk in and you're like, wow, I could never keep a house this clean. And the host says to you, oh, I'm not really much of a housekeeper and I don't really have a great design sense, when it's like completely clear that they focus a lot on design. And if it's not their design sense, they paid somebody to have that design sense. But clearly they're looking for you to say, this is such a beautiful house. You obviously have a wonderful design sense and oh, it's so clean. I could never keep a house this clean, right? So they're really looking for you to reinforce their ego. So the self-deprecation is a form of manipulation. Now, again, when we talk about narcissists, it's difficult because everybody goes into that, am I a narcissist? I do that. But these are pervasive patterns of behavior meant to manipulate the other person to do what you want or what you think you need on a continual basis without regard for them. So they're not really concerned about, oh, am I making this person coming into my home feel welcome, feel comfortable? It's like, I want the admiration for what a wonderful home I have. Number 3, and this one you don't really find out until you are close to the covert narcissist or if they're a family member, which is a difficult place to be. But the covert narcissist's public image, the image they project in public, is totally different than what you know of the person. So you could be, let's say you have a friend and you're beginning to question, is she a covert narcissist? And when you're out in public, she'll say things in a group like, I never gossip. Oh, I don't even like to listen to gossip. But you know, when you get home or in a private dinner with her, she will be gossiping like mad and putting other people down, which I think is another one of the signs we'll come to in a little bit. But what they'll say in public about themselves is very contradictory to who they really are. And if this is somebody that you're really in a close relationship with, if this is a partner of yours or a parent or a sibling, it is very difficult because it's a very isolating place to be. If you are looking to your family members for support of how this person is putting you down, giving you these criticisms that are, sort of mixed up with compliments, but really manipulating you and not being nice, other people don't see it. Other people will downplay what's happening, and you really begin to feel like, am I nuts? Like, what's wrong here? And that's really one of the most damaging things of being in a relationship with a narcissist, is that we begin to question ourselves more and more, and it just eats away at our self-esteem. Sign number 4, they are hyper jealous of other people and envious in a bitter way. Now, I do have a little short on envy, and sometimes envy can be like not the worst thing in the world. If we feel a little bit of envy and it's motivational for us to try for something, fine. But if we are envious in a way where it's bitter and it's like, I should have that, they shouldn't. And jealousy is similar. It's like, I want it and I don't want them to have it. I don't want them to have it. Right? So that kind of jealousy and bitter envy, the covert narcissist is filled with it. And again, the covert narcissist knows not to share this in public, not to share this at, sort of the grocery store or larger gatherings or social events where they want to impress somebody. They're not going to share this, but they might share it probably with you in your closer relationship. They can't contain it. They're always aware of rank, where they rank versus somebody else. And for covert narcissists who are female, there does tend to be a high emphasis on appearance. So how does that person look versus me? How fit are they? How in shape? And if somebody else has achieved more than them, they will put the other person down, again, in private, by stating the reasons that they were lucky or they had this advantage or that advantage, or somebody helped them, and in comparing it to themselves where they had it much harder. They didn't achieve that because of the difficulties in their life, the oh, poor me. And I'm going to mention this again later, but this kind of martyr/victim stance, I do everything for everybody else, is one of the biggest signs of the covert narcissist. And I also want to point out that one reason it's so hard to be in a close relationship with somebody who is bitter and envious of everybody else is that, particularly if you grow up with this, you begin to think that everybody thinks that. So you begin to not trust other people because this person who you're so close to truly isn't trustworthy, because they probably do this to other people, and then you see them being fake to that person, but hear what they say behind closed doors, and then you think, oh, everybody does that, but not everybody does that. And then they also might do it to you, or in public they praise you and talk about how great you are, but behind closed doors they criticize you and belittle you. So again, it just totally undermines your trust, not just in that person, but almost kind of in humanity, which is really unfortunate. Sign number 5, they tend to sabotage people in their relationships or work. I mean, they will sabotage somebody else's relationship or somebody else's work environment. So, I mean, there's just so many examples of this, right? But if you have a coworker who's a covert narcissist, like, just watch your back, because again, to your face, the narcissist might be totally sweet, charming, nice in that kind of weird way you're not really sure of, but behind your back, they might go to extremes. They might lie to your boss about you, or lie about some of your work habits, or say they did something that you actually did, like they'll take credit for it, but it will be done purposefully to sabotage you and make other people not think you are doing a good job. It will make other people not trust you. I've worked with people where a covert narcissist has gone behind their back to talk to somebody that they're dating and tell them complete lies to this new partner, and the new partner thinks this person's sweet and nice and looking out for them. So then the partner goes back to you and says, I heard XYZ and you did this stuff, and you're like, no, I never did that. Well, who are they going to believe? Because of course you're not going to admit that, because nobody would admit it, because it's really bad behavior. So going behind your back and saying things to sabotage you. And if you observe somebody doing that to somebody else, they're not yet doing it to you. Red flag, watch out. It could happen to you. Probably will if you stay in the relationship long enough. Sign number 6. This is one of the trickiest in many ways. The covert narcissist looks to other people to take care of them and to do things for them. So they might present as really needy in a way that initially you believe. They have excuses for why things didn't go well, why they can't pay their bills or take care of this or take care of that, why they didn't achieve what they should have achieved in life because they're smarter than everybody else, but they also may not say that to you. They will have all these excuses and all these ways in which they really need your help. And this can be very confusing because those of us with a lot of empathy, we like to help others. We don't like it if somebody is in need and needs help. It doesn't feel good to not help them. So we want to help them. And the first few times we will help. We will jump right in and help the covert narcissist. And over time, we'll realize, they're not grateful. They're not doing anything to change their situation. I keep feeling guilty that I'm not doing enough. I should be doing more and more and more. So that victim stance is so confusing to us. Sign number 7. Their primary mode of communication is passive aggressive. Pretty much almost everything I've described so far, all these other traits, all of it has passive aggressive communication. The covert narcissist does not directly say, hey, I'd really appreciate it if you would help me with the laundry today. Or I'd really love to go to a Japanese restaurant this evening. How do you feel, right? They're not going to be assertively, normal, reasonably sort of stating their needs and wants and like, hey, this is what I'd like. How do you feel, right? Because that's a sort of a normal way. The passive aggressive person will try to get you to do what they want without ever actually saying what they want. And then when we combine that with that kind of victim stance, it could be something like, oh, I know laundry's my job because I don't earn as much money as you, and I know I always have to do this, and they'll use that kind of victim stance to make you feel guilty so you do what they want, right? We're kind of back to the same theme, but really paying attention to the passive-aggressive language. Passive-aggressive communication at its very nature is kind of a lie. It's false. It's not saying what the truth is or what the truth of what you feel. It's not owning it, right? And there are plenty of people who can use passive-aggressive language in many situations who are not narcissists, okay? There's kind of like almost everything I've talked about that could, as I said, sometimes you might do some of these things, but it's not a pervasive way of being that is really focused on manipulating somebody else to do what you want without empathy for that person, which brings us to number 8. The covert narcissist fakes empathy, might appear to have enormous empathy. The covert narcissist might say to you like, oh, I cry at movies all the time, when they actually don't. But they are very skilled at pretending to have empathy. So narcissists in general do not have full empathy. They might have cognitive empathy. They might have the ability to understand their thinking, understand why people feel what they feel. And then they use that knowledge to manipulate the person. But it's not full empathy. It's not like understanding cognitively and then physically feeling for the other person and then affectively feeling, right? Caring. And as I'm talking about this, I'm thinking of how covert narcissists tend to love their animals. because I'll have clients who grew up with a covert narcissist parent, and they'll be like, they always showed the dogs more love and affection than they showed me. So that really made me feel like I was worthless because the dogs got all of this attention. And I can't say she's a narcissist or he's a narcissist that has no empathy, because they have all this empathy for the dogs. If the dogs are hungry, they want to feed them. If the dog is sick, they get very, very upset. Yeah, you know why? Dogs in particular give their owners undying admiration. They're almost like the perfect feeder for the admiration that the narcissist needs. So it's just sort of a strange thing that I have noticed story after story after story. You will have the covert narcissist being somebody who just loves their pets, dogs in particular. So I wanted to share these signs of a covert narcissist with you because it is a personality type that is somewhat unrecognized. And it could be you're in a relationship that you find like super confusing, but you're like, well, I don't really think they're narcissistic. They don't brag. They're not that typical presentation of a narcissist. But if they're a covert narcissist, it's just as damaging. And then I do have a video on how to deal with a narcissist if you have one in your life. And I'm coming out with the impact of having a mom who's a covert narcissist. But look into the different tools and techniques and tips for dealing with a narcissist if you're in a relationship with somebody who checks all these boxes. Alrighty, so if you liked this video and you can give it a like, that's a big help. Subscribe, and I hope to see you next week, and I will link those other videos here for you to watch. Take care.